Welcome to a special edition of the Blazor Power Hour. Usually we talk mainly about Blazor and Blazor only on this channel. Today's episode is going to talk about the tools that are going to get us to working on Blazor from an interesting perspective that you might not have thought of before. We're going to do some Blazor development with augmented reality, maybe even publish our app to an augmented reality platform. So I thought this would be a fun experiment to have on the show. But today we're going to focus on what tools we have to do that, because it's kind of a lot of context that revolves around all of this. And if I don't give you that context before we start having shows about the device, there's going to be a lot of questions, which I know you have a lot of questions for today, and that's what this episode is about. Is answering the questions that you might have about this guy right here, the Quest 3, how you can use it for development, whether it's a good device for your daily desktop window, monitor replacement, all that type of thing. That's actually one of the questions I get most often about my VR headset is, can I use it as a monitor replacement for my daily coding activities and all of that stuff? And it's a mixed bag. It's maybe not as clear and concise as you'd hope it would be. It's not a solid yes or a no. A lot of it just depends on your habits that you have around your work activities. So the long answer we'll get to. The short answer, there's a lot of awkward things that happen when you're trying to use this thing as a monitor. For example, I drink coffee in the morning or any hot beverage. The short of it is it's not a 100% replacement. You can spend some good time in here doing some dev though. So let's talk a little bit about how we get there, about the device and all of that. If you have a Quest 3 or any VR platform, chime in chat. Just let me know what you have out there. I'm kind of curious. See if people are using these devices like I am. I'm particularly interested in them. I think augmented reality is one of the coolest technologies that we have going, and possibly a strong future of development itself. And devices themselves. Like, I can't see the phone being the go-to device forever. I just don't. So, quick disclaimer also, I do not work for Meta. I work for Progress Software. Although I am a fan of Meta and the device that they make, I don't work for them. It just happens to be one of the most accessible devices out there from a price perspective and performance perspective. So it's like most bang for your buck device right now. So this is the one that I have that you'll see me working with on the stream today and in the near future. I've got the Quest 3 model. I opted in for the 512 gigabyte because I play a lot of games on mine as well. And I didn't know for development purposes, if I'm going to be deploying a bunch of sample apps to this thing, if I need extra space, but your mileage may vary. There's a lower end memory version of it. It's still same capabilities, just doesn't have all of the storage that the other one has. So for about I think it's another $100 or so, you get the extra storage. One of the things I'll note about just the hardware in general here, if you are considering buying something like this, one thing Meta's not great at is comfort. The original head strap, which I'm trying to see if I have it sitting around my desk, I don't. The original headset is kind of blah. Not great. It's really not great. And you're going to want to invest in a third-party or first-party comfort strap. This one is very uncomfortable, especially given the topic today, which is using this for long-term dev purposes. The included head strap is a no-go. The upgraded strap is more like the HoloLens 2 type of a strap, where I'll try to get this in front of the camera. It's got the ratcheting knob in the back, fits snug around the back of your head here, and then you just kind of ratchet it in, and it's got the Velcro top on it there. The battery lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on what you're doing. Some people say even less. The mixed reality mode eats up battery like crazy. It does get a little hot on your face as well, but the battery in general, or the device in general, consumes a lot of power, okay? This thing eats power. It does so much that the included USB cable and adapter that come with it cannot power the headset and charge it at the same time. For this headset, I don't know what that time span would be. I'd estimate maybe 4 or 5 hours of on time while plugged in. It's probably still going to die. Okay, so you would need to take breaks, which I'd recommend anyway. That's kind of the hardware specs. If anybody has any questions, pop them into chat. I'll try to answer those, and then we'll jump over to talking about some of the software involved. The first thing I want to point to is the MetaQuest Developer Hub. So if you have a Quest and you want to do any kind of development for it, make sure you go to the Quest Developer Hub, download the app that you find there. So this is both for Windows and Mac. I have no experience with the Mac version. I would assume they're the same, but I can't vouch for that. It does give you, the outline of what's available here. You can manage devices, monitor performance, record and cast, which is something we're going to try to do today. Hopefully it works. I had issues with this on a prior webinar where it wouldn't start up because of my camera, but now I know what's causing it, so hopefully we can do that today. Drag and drop on to drop your builds. You can drop APKs, kind of side load things with this app, and so on and so forth. So I actually have that tool. I can open it up and reshare my screen. Let's do the entire screen this time. And this is the MetaQuest Developer Hub application. And you kind of get like a little news dashboard here, but the more important thing is up at the top here. You've got Device Manager. Let's see if I can zoom. I don't have my zoom tool up. I know it's probably hard to see on stream. There we go. We've got our Device Manager, which is what we'll spend a lot of time in here on the show. Performance Analyzer, I haven't tried this out yet because I'm not really taxing this for any reason. File Manager is really nice. It just gives you access to the file system on here. And they do have code samples and some other things. One thing that's pretty good so far is the documentation from Meta has been quite good. And I can't get out of my zoom tool. There we go. The documentation's been quite good. And they have varying degrees of documentation. So there's things that we'll talk about later more in detail, but you can do immersive applications, obviously like VR and AR. You can also do things like progressive web applications. And you can use things like WebXR, and they have that all split into like a drop down that you can choose and jump between their documentation. I'm going to try to fix this display real quick. You'll notice the resolution pop in and out when I start using the device. We'll talk about that as well, but I just want to give you a heads up. The screen's going to kind of bop around a bit. I'm going to try to set this at 1920 by 1080 and see if it'll stay at least close to that while we're using the device. So download that, install it. You get the nice dashboard here in dark mode, Fuel Snable. Notice that we do have dark mode here. This will let us manage our device, and this is where I was having an issue with my camera plugged in. And let's see if we've got the Quest 3 is active. It looks like it's finding it this time. It kept finding my camera last time, which was really awkward because it was trying to do stuff with my camera that only the MetaQuest can do. So I was trying to access proximity sensors and things, and my camera's like, what are you doing? And then the app started blowing up and crashing my system. So we're good today for some reason. All right. So this is something that's really helpful down here is our device actions. Something you'll see me use while we're doing development stuff. We can do casting, so you'll be able to see from my device. Let's actually see if this is working right now. And this is where I was having an issue before. Yeah, this is something to do with my camera. I'll have to turn my camera off possibly to get that to work. Apparently, if you have other Android devices attached to your system, they will interfere with this. So just a little heads up there. I haven't figured out how to get that to work together yet. So I'll switch to a different camera that doesn't have an Android operating system. It's a little grainier, but you don't need to see my face anyway. So you can also record videos, do screen captures. You can request the MetaQuest browser to open a URL, which is awesome. So that's in there as well. These are super helpful here if you're doing dev. You can turn your proximity sensor off and boundary detection off. I do not recommend that if you're gaming in VR. You will hit the wall. No matter how good you think you are, you will run into something. Don't ask me how I know. Various other test utilities in here as well. You will notice there's also some side-loaded apps that I have here. One of them is a Blazor app, another Maui app here. So we do have the ability to publish some .NET stuff to this headset using .NET Maui. We'll talk about that in another stream. Again, I haven't used the performance analyzer, and it doesn't look like I'm properly connecting because of my camera again, but we'll take a look at that as we do other shows. And then we have our device manager here, which is really great for recording videos from the device and sharing them on social media. You may have seen this one I posted on LinkedIn of me working in augmented reality. We'll do a little bit of that later as well. And that's about it for the developer hub. Okay, so this is where you're going to manage your device, do screen recordings, captures, turn developer options on and off. It's a nice dashboard for debugging and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. And again, questions in chat are welcome, so please post them if you have them. Next on my list, something that is pretty invaluable is the remote desktop software for the PC or Mac desktop. What this is going to do is allow you to access your development computer from, it doesn't need to be a dev box, but we're all developers here, I assume. This is going to let you access a PC or Mac. In my case, it's my development system from the Quest itself. And this is where we get into the question of, can I use this as a monitor? Yes, you can. Is it going to be something you're in more than an hour or two a day? That's questionable. Does it have good enough resolution? That's a question I get a lot. Does it have good enough resolution for me to code in Visual Studio? Yes, it does. It's not a problem. The resolution is not a problem on this thing. That is something it does very good. Whether you personally can sit with something heavy on your face for hours at a time and drink through a straw, that is the question that you need to ask yourself. So my long answer is always no, this is not a computer monitor replacement. Is it interesting to use as a dev environment? Yes. Is it easy to work with if you're doing VR development or AR development? Absolutely. But if you're just sitting there coding and reading all day, I don't know. I had high hopes, but it's a little rough. All right, so you'll need to download the app to your desktop. It's just a little VPN style thing. It looks like this. And for some reason it says no device available. Let's try plugging it back in again. It should actually wake up and it will say ready on it. This is a really kind of a weird UI for one. Because, and again, it might be because of my camera, but it's funny because you have to put the device on your face before the proximity sensor will light this up and tell you that it is ready. So you don't really see that it's ready ever. And as soon as you take it off, the proximity sensor kicks in and it says no devices available. So it's kind of weird, but you can, as I have done, place a small piece of tape over your proximity sensor, and that will help alleviate things. You can also turn that proximity sensor on and off, I believe, from the device manager here, and you can see I've disconnected, so we'll have to reconnect that device here in a minute, and I will show you from VR how that works. This is a very quick and easy thing to set up. And again, it allows you to connect to see your desktop monitor. I think it only does one monitor only, your primary. It doesn't let you interact with the monitor at all from the VR headset. You can't use the controllers, any of that stuff to interact with your PC. You'll still need your mouse and keyboard with this app, okay? So you would connect to it and then go back to your keyboard and mouse and work. If you wanted to stay in VR and kind of tool around with things, there is a third-party tool called Virtual Desktop that you can buy on the Quest store. It's about $20. It's well worth it. Even if you're using, I use a combination of some of these things, but Virtual Desktop has a lot of extra features that you might enjoy if you're watching movies, playing games, things like that. So it's worth the $20, but it will connect and you can actually navigate your PC with this using the Quest controllers, open apps, click on, buttons and files and things like that. Wouldn't really recommend typing in it or anything, but you can at least mouse around from inside the VR headset without switching to a physical mouse attached to a computer, which is nice if you're not standing in front of the computer, right? You take this to a couch or something, you want to open some video files to watch movies, things like that. It's super helpful, or play some games, PC VR games. This one also, I believe, only lets you have one desktop window open. So as far as I can tell, and I've used it quite a while, I've only been able to have one window open at a time. If you want multi-windows, if you're looking at doing, you want like this infinite number of virtual desktop monitors to open up from your PC. Aztec Consulting is one tab ahead of me here, and there is Immersed. So Immersed is another option. This one lets you add as many virtual monitors, I think, as your PC can handle. I've added a couple, I think up to like 4 just to try it out. And I think you need to have a subscription. There is a subscription model to this one. So Virtual Desktop is $20. Immersed is a subscription model. There's a co-working space, a private space, the multiple monitor setup. Okay, spawn up to 5 virtual monitors, it says, without any additional hardware. The remote collaboration stuff. I forgot to mention Meta has that as well, with this guy here. Let's see what is it called? Oh, Horizon Workrooms. So something similar to that. Screen sharing, whiteboarding. So you can have kind of that remote office kind of a feel with this app. But most of the time I see people wanting it for multiple monitors. We probably won't be using that much on the show, but I just wanted to mention it's there in case you wanted to try that desktop monitor replacement type of a thing. Progress Software, company that I work for, we actually have VR AR tools. They are for Unity. So if you're considering any Unity development, which Unity, they're going through some changes right now, but with, that aside, they are kind of the go-to engine, 3D engine for any mixed reality. If you're on the Apple side of the fence, they want to call this spatial computing now. Any of the XR stuff. So if you're going cross-platform and you're doing 3D development, immersive applications, then Unity is a good way to go. And we have some nice tooling for Unity. People know us for our UI components, and we have some UI type things that you can use in these immersive applications. One of them is the Telerik XR Motions. And this is like, if you've ever played a VR game where you need to navigate your environment, so you kind of have your stick and you press in on the joystick and it kind of shoots a beam with like a circle of where you want to teleport to. And then when you, let go or press a button, you jump to that location. That is what this does. So you get like that snap movement stuff, smooth locomotion, teleport and curves, that type of thing. And then we have like interaction things, controller tool tips. So this is all based around like you have a controller or you have your hand tracking and you want to have some kind of menu system or interactivity with your hands or your controllers. These are functionality to kind of build up those kind of UI systems or interactive systems with hand tracking and controllers. And then finally, there's some UI stuff. We're going to be working mainly on what VR nerds like me like to call flat apps. So the traditional web app type of Blazor applications inside of VR. We're not going to be jumping into 3D yet. Might be something we do later on. But what I want to do with the rest of the show today is just talk a little bit about our options when we work with these tools. I'm going to try switching to another camera. Oh, there we go. Like I said, it's a little washed out. It's at an odd angle too. But not that you need to see me that well. All right, so this is connected now. And then hopefully this is coming through on stream. It's a little hard for me to see how detailed this dashboard is. But what I'm focused in on here is these device actions. We're going to try to hit cast and see if I can share my screen from my VR headset. So inside of my headset, I'm just getting a quick check here to make sure that developer mode is enabled. Casting and streaming at the same time has become a little bit of an issue. So trying to get my debugger, there's a prompt, a challenge that comes up. Actually, the best thing to do right now might be to reset the headset. And it's like a typical Android device. You get a prompt inside of the device. It has the device ID in it. And then it says, would you like to connect to this device for debugging? And you have to like check a box and then hit OK. So it got locked up on that screen. And now when I'm plugging it in, it's not prompting me for it. And what's odd is I get the dashboard here, but for some reason it won't get past and it won't let me cast. There are other ways to cast. I might be able to try. Let's see here. Let's see if it'll let me do it now. One thing is waiting for connection. There we go. It's a little Hall of Mirrors, but we did it. We got the casting working, and you should be able to see on the stream now what my view looks like from my headset. So you can see kind of my office area here. You can see the lovely, I don't know if you can hear me well facing this direction. We got lovely gray weather outside. the overall video quality of the headset probably looks better on stream here than it does in the actual device. So one thing that you might notice from videos, like on YouTube or social media, is the video quality in AR looks phenomenal. However, inside the actual headset itself, that video is stretched quite wide because it is about 180-degree projection around you. It looks really great on a small screen like many of you are looking at now. However, in the headset, it's grainy. You can make out faces of friends and things, but you cannot make out their facial features and things like that. So be aware that you know, what you see is not necessarily an accurate representation of the device. So we can cast from it now. So that's casting. So we can just hit this button here and enable casting from the desktop. That will let me share my video with you. Now, if I want to connect, you have your eyes on the XReal Air Pro 2. Give me 1 second. My microphone, I bumped it when I was moving my head there and knocked it down. There we go. Apologize. Get that back up. Who makes XReal? What's the company behind that one, Smab? Is XReal the company, or is that... I need to be more familiar with other devices. I just mainly use this one right now and haven't looked back for a while to see what's out there. So we've got our cast here. And inside the headset, let's see, there are no menus open. It does hand tracking, so you can see my hand here. And notice there is a small ball inside of it. That's going to be my menu. So it has similar gestures to the HoloLens. So if I hold my hand up and I pinch my fingers together, XReal has the glasses one. Okay. You can do various things here. It's just like hitting the menu button on the remote. One thing that's nice, it does voice commands. So it has like a Siri type of thing built in. So we have our menu. There's our menu system. So there's our real desktop monitors. There's a virtual augmented reality monitor there, or I guess inside the OS itself. This is actually easier to use with controllers, by the way. It's not that hand tracking is bad. It's just sitting in front of a computer at a desk. You're going to run your hands into the desk trying to do this. You get a lot more accuracy with the controller, which is something that makes me wonder why Apple's choosing to not ship a controller with their VR headset. Even if hand tracking is great, when there are real world things in front of you, you're going to bump into them trying to manipulate these screens. So it's often nice to just have something that's on your wrist that you can aim very easily with and not have to gesture and be accurate with. So we can use this bar here to move the screen closer, further away, change the orientation. There's some small buttons here we can tap, and then it's more like a tablet mode. So you can pick this guy up and move it around, kind of like a tablet. Then this is the projected mode, where you get a nice big screen. And this is a very large screen in person, and you can change the size of it as well. And what usually ends up happening is this is going to be in front of you because you're using your keyboard. And now you could see your monitor through it. It does have a decent amount of resolution that you can read the monitor through the headset like this. But what I want to do is actually mirror my monitor. So I'm going to go to my apps down here and have that remote desktop display that I talked about earlier. And you'll see I have a couple of computers in my house that are hooked up to this. And now I can click on that there. And I'm going to go ahead and put the headset on. It's actually kind of heavy to hold. And there we go. So now I have a giant monitor. And we're going to get this hollow mirrors because that's the only way to make this work. And cast this right now. So this is my monitor. And again, I can't interact with it, not with the joystick or the controllers that come with the Quest, but I can mouse around this monitor, this big virtual monitor. And it's pretty large. I couldn't tell you how big that is. I'd say around 50 inches or something. And it's kind of a square aspect ratio. Let's see if we can actually see what the resolution being output is. Let's try this here. And sorry, I'm trying to see my stream. There we go. So you can see my desktop. I'm looking at the desktop through VR right now. And what I really want to do is go to display settings and see what it's outputting here. It's 1600 by 1024. That's the resolution that I'm getting when I'm connecting the remote desktop. So it's kind of an odd ratio, and I believe that's per eye what we'd get. But when we're streaming a desktop like this, is a 2D app here, you're getting the one eye out of it. So we've got this nice big monitor. You can see it's almost as big as the two monitors put together. So we've got that, and then we can also grab this monitor and change the size of it as well. So we could make it wider, but you'll notice there's black bars on it. So it doesn't actually change that one fixed resolution there. And we can also take the monitor at the top here, and we can scoot it over, and now we've got space for something else. So we can come into the app and open up a browser. So now we've got a web browser, and we've got the remote desktop side by side. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best way for you guys to see this. It's kind of awkward to do on a live stream. So I don't know what kind of hollow mirror trickery we've got going on, but you can see I've got both a desktop and a browser window open. Okay, so this is kind of how you can do some development. You can open Visual Studio here, work on things just fine while you view documentation in your browser. You can also you can use this if you wanted to have, like video, YouTube going, whatever, social media. You've got access to that as well. And then again, you can resize the application here. You want to go to like a mobile mode or whatever that is. You could do that as well. And you could also have the app you're working on side by side here. And you can do up to 3 windows with this too. I'm trying to remember if we can do, yeah, we can snap a tab off. We can have 3 of these open. at one time. I think that is the maximum for this mode. Go ahead and take the casting away for a minute. Let's see. No questions so far. And I have to watch the stream back later and see how this actually projects out. It's a little hard to wrap your head around when you're doing it live. So that is one way you can get some workflow going. And the resolution you saw was pretty good, 1600 by 1024. It's not bad at all. The text is easy to read. You could sit in there and code and see your docs in the Quest browser, and you could always use the dev tools here to type into that browser long URLs and things like that and paste into it, and then open them as well. So you could take a long URL like this, you can copy, and then you can come back here and you can say paste, and you just say open, and this will actually tell the VR headset to open that page in the browser. So you can kind of remote control with this as well. Some of the things that the headset's doing. Let's see here. So that's the general gist of the workflow. I also have, let's see if this will open up. I could try to launch a side-loaded app on the headset. Let's go ahead and cast that and see if these things are open in the headset for us. It's looking for a boundary for some reason. Not quite sure why it wants a boundary. Let's see, we can confirm that boundary, continue and pass through. There we go. And you'll notice I have a .NET Blazor application open. Okay, so we've got a .NET Blazor app here, and we've got the Hello World Blazor app. So this is the typical Hello World Blazor app that you get with a file new project. This happens to be a Maui application. So we can build .NET Maui apps, deploy them to the Quest, and they generally just work so far. I've only experimented, but we'll do some experiments live on the show soon. See what kind of APIs we can actually use with it. Maybe see if there's camera access, stuff like that. I don't know what it will do, to be honest. I don't know what camera access and file system access and all of that will work like. If we'll get errors or if we'll get enumerated cameras because there's a couple on here. I don't know what that's going to look like. So we'll play around with it. We'll play around with getting that working. But it's really an interesting thing because let's see if we can get this going. I don't have Visual Studio up and running at the moment. But what we'll do is we'll bring over our Chrome browser. Has to be Chrome, by the way. This does not work in Edge for some reason. But we'll bring Edge over, or Chrome over, and then let's go in here and say devices, or Chrome, inspect. And that app, I think, had set up with debugging. And there is my web view for my Blazor Maui application, right? So now, if I hit inspect on that, I have my Maui application that is running in my Quest headset. All right. And I'm able to interact with it. Let's see, do I need to interact with it? I can inspect it and debug it. Let's see if I can interact with it in the headset. It looks like it's frozen, so that's not a great demo. Oh, there it goes. There was some lag there. All right, so I'm able to interact with it in the browser, and you can see it updating on the debugging tools. For some reason, I can't click on it from here. It doesn't seem to want to work like that. But what this is nice, tab inactive. The sensor must have got kicked off. This is not a foolproof experience. As you can see, I'm seeing nothing but the real world through this right now. So mileage may vary with some of these things. But it is neat that you can get in there and debug. What's nice about this debugging experience is your web debugger. So you can go in and traverse the DOM elements. It's still able to pull something up in here. So you can pull up your DOM elements, inspect things, see console messages, and stuff like that. So you can use your debugging tools to connect and work on applications in the VR headset. Let's see if we can terminate that. There, it stopped casting, and maybe I'll be able to get my device back to normal in just a minute. So that's kind of a good summary of all the tooling that we have. We've got the Quest Developer Hub. Again, you saw me casting with that. We could do recording captures, talk to the browser with it. You can run ADB commands if you're familiar with the Android development commands. Send those to the device. I probably should have had my boundary off. I think that's part of the issue with the device acting the way it is. And then you can sideload and run and terminate apps as well. And then if you want to add new things, you can just grab APK files directly in here. It will also connect through Visual Studio, which I think we should do on the next show. So we'll get a file new project up and running and launch that into the headset. Do a little bit more debugging, and then maybe I can work out some of the kinks of trying to cast the experience to a live stream, because again, it's kind of awkward. I can't see what you're seeing while I'm in the device working, so I don't know what your experience is like. I'll have to go back and watch a stream and see. And then we'll circle back on a couple things that we talked about earlier. As I was doing this, the device has been plugged in. Okay, remember I mentioned the battery? The device uses a lot of juice. The battery cannot keep up even if the device is plugged in. We've been plugged in here for an hour. The device is being, I think it's been on most of that time, so we'll say it's been on 1 hour while it's been plugged in, and we've lost 13% battery. So you would expect maybe that if you were plugged in and you started at 100%, an hour later, you should still be at 100%. Not the case. So keep that in mind. Even when you're plugged in, you can run out of power. It's not using the recommended power adapter, by the way. I am plugged into the PC, so I have a nice sharp casting stream without bogging down my network, because that could affect the live stream here. So there is that. You may get a little bit better experience if you're plugged in to the actual outlet. Aztec said he's been on 6 hours. Whew, that's a long time in VR. On the Quest 3, Aztec, or the Quest 2? I think you said you had both. That's quite a lot of time to have this on your head. I get a little sensitive around the face to it after a while. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, it gets a little headachy after that for me. Yeah, I don't get the motion sickness, by the way. A lot of people run into that issue. that hasn't been a problem for me, thank goodness. Very few things cause motion sickness for me in the headset. That is something that's going to vary quite a bit from person to person. So for me, if it is a very bland, cartoony experience with very like plain graphics, which there's a lot of stuff out there like that, like Rec Room. What is the one that Microsoft has that's similar? AltSpace VR, Rec Room, AltSpace VR, those type of things. These cause motion sickness in me for some reason. So if we VR, so stuff with like this type of graphics here, it's like very vibrant, like cartoony colors and basic shapes. Something about that makes me incredibly queasy and quickly. AltSpace VR does the same. To be fair, I haven't tried them on the Quest 3 yet, but that's actually way better than what it looks like. I haven't tried them in a while. Maybe the graphics get a little bit better. Something about the movement in this, though, always threw me off. So some of those things do. Games generally do not. Things that have a good amount of realism to them do not. But it does get uncomfortable after a couple hours on your face. It does dig into the forehead and stuff a little bit. So it's, again, if you're looking at it for just doing development full time, some things to consider before you buy one if you're not interested in gaming. If you do not game on this thing or enjoy any of the other experiences on it, there's some good like sporting packages and things that you can get into to watch like live sports, television, stream video. If you don't plan on doing anything but going into Visual Studio on this, I wouldn't recommend buying one. If you're into any of the other stuff, plus you want to get into Visual Studio or VS Code or whatever, highly recommend it. So like it's very, very little gray area there. It's, you know, not the cheapest device out there. 500 virtual travel. I'll have to check that out. What type of, is that just a category, genre of virtual travel, or is there an actual app, virtual travel app, Aztec? Yeah, so then there's a little gray area there. Like it's $500 entry fee for this thing. It's nowhere near the cost of Apple's crazy expensive device that doesn't seem to do a fraction of what this one does. But for that much money, you could have a really nice monitor if that's all you're looking for. If you're looking for a device that does many things and you want to try those out, then it's perfect for that. Highly recommend it if you're going to experiment with it. Any other questions before we end the show today? I'd like to take another show to do more structured demos, I guess, and experiments in the device itself, making some different types of apps for it. And again, they're going to be 2D apps to start with. We might get into some VR stuff eventually. It's kind of a different realm of thinking, though. Different frameworks are involved, probably Unity, something like that. I've tried some WebXR stuff. Does not mix well with Blazor. Lots of video, some apps like Blink and Wander and Traveler. I'll have to check those out. I've seen some cool games that are similar. So they wouldn't be real places, but they're more like getting off topic here, but it's still in the realm. Go to Steam. there is like a virtual kayaking one that I thought was interesting. Store home. I spell it wrong. Kayak. I thought it was. There it is. Mirage. This one has phenomenal graphics. And I could see like doing this for like a virtual like vacation type of thing. Like just to take a 15-minute break or something from work and just chill out and like go into some of these environments might be cool. Yeah, but on some future shows here, we'll do some Blazor development in Maui. We'll do some Blazor development with PWAs. We'll try to see what we can get working with WebXR, but the thing that I've seen with WebXR that is a problem, it doesn't mesh well with other like 2D framework tech. So we can even try, let's see, it's 3JS. There's some really great frameworks out there. It's not the framework's problem, really. Could be, I don't know. If you look at, let's see, I'm trying to remember where to find these. There are some WebXR samples. I mean, they're really cool samples, but what happens is, let's see if we can find, might need my emulator up. Inspect, WebXR. This is a WebXR emulator that you can get, by the way. Trying to remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up in my plugins. Is it in my plugins? WebXR API emulator. This is something that you can search for. I think you get it out of the Chrome store and install it. It's not perfect, but it will let you get into some of these. I think you have to refresh the page once you open it, and then you can open the demos, any live demo that you see. It says VR not supported. Might have to try it on Chrome. Even though the plugin is working, showing a UI there, may actually need to do it in Chrome. Uh, 3JS AR cones. This is the one I was looking for. AR not supported. All right, let's try Edge again. Cones, AR not supported. Come on. Let's do inspect again. The tooling from the web perspective is not quite there yet for VR and AR. It's getting there. There are things that work and things that don't work. I think you might have to have a certain device selected. There it is. So you have to have like a smartphone device, I think. And see, this is behind. This is the Quest Go and Oculus Quest. The browser's not detecting it. And this is like a very simple emulation. Samsung Gear VR, AR not supported. So these are all older devices. And I don't know what the status of this WebXR plugin is, if it's under current development or not. But if you do Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus with AR, you can get these demos to work in your browser. We'll look up where to find this in a minute. I can't remember where I installed it from. but basically it's kind of a dumb emulation where you can move a phone around the environment and look through it, and then you can kind of spin it around. In this demo, you're placing these virtual cones. So it's drawing a 3D model in this space. And you can see the cone with the, through the viewfinder of the phone. And if I can remember how to move this side by side, side to side, there we go. It's kind of clunky. I'd love to see like a Quest emulation, a proper one, but you can see the cone there. If I could center this better, there we go. So we can move around the cone. You can see it there. It's kind of should be in the space right here, but you can only see it through the AR device, right? So that's the demo. You click on the screen and it places 3D objects in inside of your space. The problem with this in Blazor, when I start this experience, you have this Start AR button. This is part of Three.js, this button. It's being rendered with a canvas. And basically, there's just no room to interop with Three.js and Blazor. There's just not kind of an interop barrier here that other than show this button using JavaScript, click the button, and now you're in a JavaScript world, and you're completely outside of .NET, and you're not going to see .NET again until you end your AR experience. So hopefully that made sense. Like I would be inside of JavaScript programming now to do anything here in this mode, and there's no real intelligent way to interop with Blazor. And then, other than on this screen, before I press this button, I could have Blazor dashboards or whatever, and then say Start AR. Then I have a complete AR experience, and then jump back. Even customizing this button is a pain. I guess that's kind of Three.js's fault. There are other frameworks as well. The only thing I could see being kind of useful here is something like Amazon has, where you put a virtual device in the room with you, or a virtual product, I mean, and try to like place it and see. So you might have like a shopping experience on this black screen. And on that product page, you might have a button that you click to see that product in your room. Then you go to this experience, you place the product in your room, you look at it, and then you go back to the shopping screen. That's the only thing I can see you doing with this, and those are going to be two completely different programming models. You're going to be in Blazor C# up until you hit Start AR. And once you hit Start AR, you're 100% in JavaScript land, writing JavaScript code to do all the 3D stuff. And again, there's no real room to talk back and forth between those things. So that's kind of disappointing. The other, I think it's Babylon JS is the other one. This is the other, this is the other pretty prominent JavaScript-based WebXR platform. And let's see, is this the live Nike site? I guess Nike deploys this for something. Maybe you can see the shoes in real life or in VR. But it didn't really say, just advertised that they use Babylon for something. So this is a little bit more prominent. College room planner, some games, stuff like that. Oh, I didn't know that the Xbox Design Lab, where you make your own controller, is using Babylon. That's pretty cool. So this is kind of some of the things I guess you could build with Babylon. But again, when you have this frame here, everything that's going on inside that frame is going to be JavaScript programming. you might be able to interop with something web here, but that's not really an AR experience. That's just a 3D panel. When you get into AR, what happens is the experience that's in this box where this controller is overlays the entire screen, even more than this. So it's an immersive mode that the browser goes into, and all of the UI goes away, and it's basically rendering a canvas. And you can render some 2D things over the top of it, but it's actually not recommended for the immersive experience mode. So there's like an overlay panel, and there's some rough guidelines that are still in the works about it being transparent. It shouldn't be 100% opaque, and should only contain like certain interactions and things. So it's basically like a little tiny menu that might display like frames per second, some statistics and things, over the top of your immersive experience. So there's no real room for like a Blazor style app to fit there. So it's kind of a disappointment. I was hoping there was something we could do a little more interop level to work with these type of things. And again, if you look at the samples on these, let's see, learn. I think it's under the learn pages, possibly the documentation. All these have good documentation, by the way. There's nothing negative about any of these. It's just the app model and Blazor don't play well together. Cross-platform, API, search playground. There we go. We do AR. Might have to do WebXR to find the sample I'm looking for. Not WebXY, WebXR. There we go. So they've got some similar samples, like plane detection, right? That's something that would be a nice feature to add to an app where you're looking at like a product in your real space. But again, see this goggle button? This is rendered by Babylon. And it's another one of those situations where like you can't even render this button with Blazor. Like the button comes with the 3D framework. You can customize the button and place it in different places, but essentially you're still telling Babylon.js to render this button and how to style it. So once you're in there, you can, exit the thing, and that's about it. Like that's where your AR experience is going to cut off with Blazor. So not a lot of hope here to actually do any WebXR stuff with Blazor directly. But what is nice is we can build 2D apps and put them in the Quest. And you might think that's kind of weird, like why would we want to do that? But there's actually a lot of that going on right now because developers are realizing that this is another device that people are using on a regular basis. And you saw earlier that side-by-side type of thing. Let's see if we can cast again, and maybe our device will start working. We were having a little issue earlier. Okay, so it went to 3D mode here, and I can hear it opening a window. Let's see if we can get an example of, oh, there's my menu. So not only do we have our browser, right, we can navigate to normal 2D apps, normal flat apps in here. So for example, we've got Instagram. Instagram also has a dedicated app because Meta, obviously. So we could go to Instagram in the browser and we have this flat experience, or we could actually open a 2D flat Instagram app. Notice there it says beta because they're still testing this out. This is all new ground to break here. but it's essentially the same app, right? It just dropped the Chrome, right? This is a PWA basically. So we can deploy PWAs into the Quest store. And I think this is where the actual Blazor opportunity is, right? Building our apps so they run in this environment. We can do it in VR. It's not letting me go back to AR for some reason. That's weird. So you see me tapping my head, that's me trying to get into augmented reality. I'm stuck in virtual for some odd reason. It might be because I turned off boundary detection. Let's see. Let's stop casting real quick. Or now we have our AR toggle. I forgot about that feature. I don't know if it's a safety thing or what, but the proximity sensor will turn off your AR environment. So there's my screen. In real life, there's my Instagram app. Again, Chromeless, essentially HTML-based application, right? PWA app right there. And then another example of this VR or flat app, we've got WhatsApp, Messenger, Move. It's a great example. This is the Quest's fitness tracking app. So that's a good example of something that you might want to build. Dashboards for something. Maybe you're using the Quest device in VR for something at your facilities, factory, whatever it is, and you need a dashboard in 2D to do some kind of reporting. There's also, let's see, still under new releases. Xbox Cloud Gaming is technically a flat app, but this is the one I was aiming for here. PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. So you can essentially open the standard Word application inside of your Quest. So I meant to install this over the holidays. It's a quick install. Probably because it's just a web app. I would need to sign in, and I'm not going to be able to do that live, I don't think. Oh, it did it for me. I don't know where it pulled those credentials from, but more power to you for doing it. Blank document here. Some single sign-on somewhere made that work. That was a little bit of magic. I've never opened anything Office related on this device, but yet somehow it knew the credentials to get in to Office. And I saw work related material in there, so it definitely was working. I think you have to pair a Bluetooth keyboard for this. But again, got the full Office suite here in VR. I'm assuming it's saving. This opened it in a tab. That's okay. I was mistaking this for a browser tab. So we've got a little bit of a different UI than you might be used to, I guess, for tab interface, but still, this looks like Office, right? Full Office suite here. So yeah. So we've got Office, or Word, we've got Excel, we've got PowerPoint. And it might be even interesting to check out what PowerPoint is like if I wanted to do presentations at a conference with my VR headset. That might be a thing. So again, 2D apps have their place in augmented reality here. You can see I've got Instagram open, I've got PowerPoint open, and then I can easily go to my app library and hit the remote display button and pull up my desktop and access my desktop remotely as well. Again, the only negative to this remote desktop thing is you need the physical keyboard and mouse. actually I might be wrong on that. I may need to just attach it USB to my my headset, and it might work as well. But there you can see I've got my remote desktop session. I've got PowerPoint, and I've got Instagram open, and they're all 2D apps in this 3D space. And we can build some Blazor apps, I think, that could take advantage of this. There we go. That should bring my resolution back to normal. I don't know how that looks on stream, but it's I get black bars on the sides of my monitor when I do that. So what do you all think about building apps for that AR experience? If these devices are going to let us work in the headsets in the future, we need apps to work in. The more native apps that we have in the stores, the better for that. They're only going to get better. This one's a little heavy. Aztec said, how many hours were you in it? I lost the chat history on that. You said it was 4 or 6 hours, was it? It was quite a while. You've spent a lot longer sessions in there than I have. That's for sure. 6 for an event. Okay. 6 hours in there. Whew. This one's a little hot, a little heavy. I would say, a couple more generations of this, it'll be more mainstream. I'm interested in seeing what people say about the Apple device that's coming out. I had high hopes for it, and then the more I see about it, the less impressed I am. I'm not an Apple fan, I will admit that, but prior to actually seeing the device, I had really high hopes for it. I was like, they have the technology, they have the processors, they could build something amazing. Then they came out with this. It's very gimmicky for the price that they're asking for. If you look at these demos, it's all flat apps. And I know I just said, there's plenty of room for flat apps, right? This is what we're going to try to build with Blazor, because there's not a lot of room for Blazor to do 3D anything. And if you want to do proper 3D, you're either going to be in JavaScript with Babylon or 3JS, and you're going to use Unity, right? And it might sound like I'm being hypocritical, contradicting myself when I say that the Apple Vision Pro doesn't impress me because it's all flat apps, and then I'm turning around telling you to build flat apps. The catch here is this is $3,500, and this is the only thing they've demoed is flat apps. The Quest is $500, and it does everything. Right? There's room for flat apps, sure, but that's not the only thing the Quest does. This seems to be all it does so far, and they're asking for 7 times the entry fee. I just don't get it. Did anyone figure out Maui and AR beyond flat app? Yeah, that's you did start right after I said it, Thindle. I'll jump back and I'll talk about it one more time. I still have the tabs open. So for one with Maui, you cannot do 3D. There is a limitation currently. Actually, I missed this earlier when I was talking about this. From Maui, I said Blazor, but from Maui specifically, you cannot do any 3JS or Babylon JS because the web view that is in the Quest headset. So the way Maui works, it uses the web view that is supplied by the device. The web view that is supplied by the Quest 3 headset does not allow access to web WebXR for some reason. So when you visit a page that is using WebXR, I have a plugin on this one, so it's showing up. Let me turn it off. Turn off my XR plugin. Okay, so when you pull up a Maui application that has WebXR embedded in it, you will see this app or AR not supported. That is what you'll see. So you cannot, you just can't do anything. The API is not there. You can get into your dev tools and do console. Trying to remember the thing. You can write in the console web, or no, it's boy, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. There is an API here, window dot WebXR, something like that. You can do the basic tests to find this. I can't remember the command for it, but it will basically come back undefined or whatever, meaning that the API is not even there. You can't call the functions in the browser. They don't exist. So yeah, that is a limitation of the Quest software. So Meta would have to enable that. They have it in their browser. So they're using either a different browser for their web view, or they're limiting their web view for some reason. I would say it's probably a different browser in their web view, and I don't understand why. Their web browser on the Quest does have XR API capability. So that shuts down Maui really fast because there's no way around that. It's gonna use that web view. You can't force it to do anything else, and you don't have API access. Therefore, you just can't do 3D. Okay, so Maui is a no. We can use Blazor though. So the other avenue for Blazor to launch in the Quest is, why is that not going away? Let's try killing everything. If we go to the Quest Developer Hub, we go to Quest Developer Hub, resources. This is what I was talking about earlier. I didn't actually show it on stream. There's a little toggle here, and it may be this note right here. Limited PWA distribution, progressive web app distribution on MetaQuest is for developers with apps listed in the MetaQuest store. I haven't quite got to the bottom of what exactly that means, but at the very least, you have to publish your app to the MetaQuest store. Once you do, I don't know if you'll get the button in the browser to install it, or it will just allow you to put a meta tag in the HTML that will direct you to the Quest store to install it. And then the app in the Quest store is a progressive web application that has been wrapped, similar to how Maui works. What was that? Didn't do what? So if you go into PWA design, getting started, I think, there is, yeah, so create your app manifest. That's all normal. This is all web standard stuff so far. Scope and extensions. There might be some specific stuff in that, but it's still web standard, right? Web standard. It's tools and packaging. Here we go. This is where things diverge from web standard. All right. So normally with a PWA, you have all of the things that I think this is mostly just Google has deemed as a progressive web app. So you have your manifest file and the background services. I'm trying to remember the name of those services. What are those called? Basically everything that's outlined in your app manifest, your service workers, right? All of that defined. That generally qualifies PWA to be installed on a platform, not for the Quest. Again, they've disabled this for some reason, and you have to deploy to their store. I think they're just trying to control what gets installed on the device and the means of how those things get installed. So they want you to go through their store. So what you have to do is once you have an APK or once you have a PWA built, you have to get their CLI and you have to run it against your folder. And I think it looks at your app manifest. And it will wrap it in an APK file. So it will create some kind of wrapper around your website. So that gets packaged up. You get an APK, and then you have to install the APK on your device to test it, and then you could submit that APK to the App Store. That has to go through their submission process, similar to like an Apple app into the web store or Apple Store. So you have to, create a developer account, which is free, and then you have to register the app and submit it against their guidelines. So you can't just build a PWA and expect it to download to the device through the browser and just run like you can on the Chrome browser or Edge browser. All right, that's not going to work. Example of that. If I go to Telerik.com and I go to web components on Blazor, demos, there is the Blazing Coffee Warehouse demo. This is a PWA. If I run it here in the browser, let's see here. I'm not getting a prompt. I should get a prompt. Sometimes Chrome's a little, well, this is Edge, but the Chromium engine's a little tricky about this. Maybe it's up here. There we go. Install PWA files. This site can be installed as an application, yada, yada, yada. I can hit install and it will install it. This functionality does not exist in the Quest. I can pull Blazing Coffee up in the Quest, do not get an install button here or anywhere else. It just doesn't happen. I would have to take this Blazing Coffee Warehouse app, run it through the CLI, spit out an APK, install the APK onto, or not install, but submit it through their app store and meet all their criteria. Okay, but the original question was like, can we do 3D with Blazor Hybrid? No, but we can do a PWA. But then we run into the issue that I outlined where we're still on the web. We have to rely on Three.js or Babylon.js or something similar. There's more. These are just the popular ones. And when we go to these examples here and look up some examples, you'll see that all of these have this. This is a nice REPL, by the way, that you can run some of these examples in. Babylon has better documentation than Three.js does. And as I say that, it's not going to work for some reason. It's not running. Let's try another one. I did plane detection earlier and it worked. Loading WebXR demo, and their website's gonna not work for me right now. So let's try the Three.js one, because it's basically the same problem. So you get these buttons basically that come up, and when you have a VR or AR sample or application, you get this view. You can do any kind of 2D HTML stuff in here that you want, and then there's a button. The button is supplied by the framework, whether it's Three.js or Babylon.js. Once you click that button, this one says VR not supported. Let's change that. Let's put our emulator back on. That. And then we got to refresh the page. So with our emulator on, it still says VR not supported. Seriously? Why? I've got the right device chosen. Neither one of them is going to work right now. Let's try it in a separate window. Yeah, it should be this one. Well, let's try the Gear VR one. It's the same idea anyway. All right, so this one's specifically looking for VR. But it'd be the same with AR. So you'll get this button that says either enter VR, AR, whatever. When you click this button, the API that takes over here, I was doing this stereoscopic thing. Bad example. It's the only one I got. So, stereo effect off. There we go. So this would be your VR mode, AR mode. The browser kind of hands over everything to a canvas, and you draw everything here. So you're like in this 3D mode. Blazor doesn't have really anything to do here. And you maybe could interop with some .NET APIs or something, but I think you're swimming upstream at that point. You're causing a lot more complication. You might as well put a web endpoint behind whatever you're trying to do and just use JavaScript and talk to the web endpoint and store data or whatever it is. Do CRUD with a web API backend built with .NET if you really want to do that. So this 3D stuff is all JavaScript. All of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. Or TypeScript. Babylon is TypeScript as well, but it's certainly not C#. If you want to do C#, you could create a Unity application, and it's just going to be a Unity app. If you want to use Maui or Blazor, the 3D part of it doesn't seem like it's going to be an easy or the best route. Like, there's other things that you can use to build 3D apps. There's just a lot better platforms, and Blazor's not one of them. Blazor's not the go-to option if I'm thinking 3D. Yeah, so HoloLens, Quest, Apple all can use Unity. Unity also has a web view of its own. So they have a cross-browser web view. I guess it's third party. But it shells, I guess, into, or it goes inside of a Unity app. So there's something like that, and then you can deploy from Unity to the web. So you can host a Unity game inside of, there it is, create, publish, and deploy. You can create a WebGL build, and you can do that. So there's other cross-platform tooling to get you onto the web and do VR and AR specific apps. So there's kind of a dividing line, really. There's not so much of a mixed mode between these apps. There's not an example that I've seen of a 2D app that transitions into 3D and then back for any good reason, except for maybe the Amazon store and some other stores. I don't know what it'll pull up if, maybe if I turn on my WebXR thing here, I might be able to see it. Let's do that. And then we'll just click on some random furniture, living room tables, and let's see if their thing pops up on here. So they have view it in your room. There we go. So that view in your room button, oh, it's going to push me out to a phone. So it doesn't want to do it here. Let's open image. It looks like it has the URL there, but product search, it's just opening it on their, it's in their app. It's not even the web. So they're oh, am I? My bad. So they have the view in your room, but this actually just opens the mobile app. So in their mobile app only. So it probably uses a platform-specific API like Google and Apple both have. So Google and Apple have, I'm trying to remember the name of their APIs. AR Core is probably what they're using. So, you jump out into what essentially is, well, you have to have it on your mobile device. So this is a platform, is a Android application. That Android application that Android application then handles all of the AR stuff. So for native mobile apps, you would use something like this. These are using OpenGL, AR Core, and then Android or iOS has their own because, platforms can't agree on anything. I guess this can be cross-platform or something. I guess there is some crossover here, so you might not have to code it twice. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. So yeah, WebXR isn't quite there yet. These on-platform APIs are more advanced, but I don't feel like you have access through Maui with this. I don't think so. Maui Core AR Core. Somebody says they'd love to have it. It's closed issue, so AR Core bindings are in Xamarin Component. So it looks like there's some way to get that. That would be more the route to go. But that would be in a native Maui part of your application. Wouldn't be Blazor anymore. Wouldn't be a Blazor hybrid thing. I mean, it could be part of a Blazor hybrid app, right? But when you navigate from your Blazor hybrid page, it'd have to go to a .NET Maui native page or native island at the very least. For AR, it'd have to be an entire that entire page, that entire view, because immersive apps don't really allow mixing. Like there's no framing or anything like that. It takes over the device's screen completely. So there might be something that you could do from that route. But again, square peg in a round hole. You really have to have the right use case for something like that. So that's where we're at. I think we'll be doing some 2D apps next time. We'll just see how you can launch them. We'll see what APIs are available. We'll tinker around a little bit, experiment. Probably keep that one at an hour. This has been 2 hours today. So again, this was a special edition to try to dip our toe in the water of VR. We looked at quite a bit of tooling that is available. We've got the remote desktop app. Let's put that back up. We'll just look at the tools again real quick before we end the show. So we got the Meta Remote Desktop app. That's the one that lets you see your desktop. I'll have to get a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and connect it in my headset and see if I actually remote control my computer with those. It doesn't let you like point and click with the controller for some reason. There are other softwares that let you do that. So like the remote or virtual desktop lets you use the Quest controller. But it's really a must-have, this remote desktop. It just makes things really easy. If you're sitting in front of your PC already, to jump in and work on an app, in Visual Studio or something, with an app in the device open. And then there's the MetaQuest Developer Hub, which is the other necessary thing for this. It's kind of like a dashboard. So MetaQuest Developer Hub, just punch that into Google, download that. That'll give you this. You have your device management stuff here, sideload apps, run CLI commands against it, do performance analysis, and get your files on and off of the device. There's also debugging stuff up here too. There's a logger, and you can kick your device, stuff like that. And then probably too much more doxing there. And again, my headset's dying as I talk. So yeah, this thing's a power hungry device. No, I didn't ever do Java. Where do you see the Java part? Oh, that's a Blazor hybrid app on Maui. That's a Maui app. These are 2 Maui apps. You can do Maui. They're just not 3D. They're 2D apps in AR. Oh, well, I mean, it is a Java environment, right? All right. That's all I've got, folks. It's been another interesting Blazor Power Hour. We're going to mess around with AR and VR soon. And hopefully you will join me next time when we build a Blazor hybrid Maui app and launch it in the headset and play around with it and answer questions about what we can and can't do with it. And thank you again. And join me next time for some more Blazor hybrid stuff.